So, hello, peace be upon you, welcome to another episode of The Happiness Revolution, where I talk about age-old spiritual wisdom that we so desperately need, without which we run into all the problems we're suffering in our personal lives and in the world, like the destruction of the environment, the manipulation of the masses by a few people, and all these wars. So that's the quick introduction. And so this age-old wisdom, spiritual wisdom, has been pretty much the same throughout the ages, and often is misunderstood. So let me explain yet another thing. One of the things is homosexuality. So you will know that religions like Islam, Christianity, Judaism, and probably some you don't know, don't agree with homosexuality. So let me explain that. Well, let me explain it from the Islamic point of view. Like I said before, all these religions are related, and the latest edition, I say edition as if it's new, but the revamped revamped in the sense that retaught the same old stuff without the corruption that comes in over time, is Islam. So I'm going to talk about it from the Islamic point of view. First of all, Islam is a religion of love and free choice. So the motto of my faith could be said put in words of love for all and hatred for none. So you might say, how can you hate homosexuals because that's what your religion teaches? And that's not true. And Islam also teaches it's up to you what you want to do, because God's put you here on this earth to make choices of your own. But what is it that God has against homosexuality? I mean, why does it bother God? Well, in reality, nothing you do really bothers God, only to the extent that it harms other people. So you might say, harms? Homosexuality harms people? I'm trying to look into the camera to do this properly. That's why I keep looking down and up, by the way. So, yes. So, anything like in Islam and any other religions, it talks about cleanliness, it talks about talking to each other and being nice to each other and stuff like that. So, sometimes we don't appreciate the gravity of certain actions. So basically, in short, homosexuality causes lots of mental illnesses, and you won't like to hear that. Some people go, how dare can you say that? The thing with spiritual wisdom, it just says what needs to be said, whether it's politically correct or not. So let me just put it in short. It doesn't really bother God what you do. God has let you do what you want to do, let you choose whatever you want to do. God only says, this is good for you, you should do it. If you don't do it, there are consequences in this life and the next life. There's a natural reaction in this life. For example, if you keep hitting your leg against a chair or something sharp or something, then you will get hurt. That's the natural reaction to doing something that's harmful to you. So there are lots of clearly there are lots of problems with homosexual behavior. The fact that in most homosexual relationships it's not stable, and it's with lots of transient relationships, which is really harmful mentally. And we take a lot of these things for granted, you see. Multiple transient relationships, which leads to all sorts of mental illnesses, and then therefore leads to drugs, and also the way the organs are used in homosexual behavior isn't used in its desired way, because every pleasure has a specific purpose. For example, there is pleasure in eating because the point of that is to encourage you to eat, okay? There's pleasure in sexual behavior because the point of that is to encourage you to reproduce. Obviously, you don't have to reproduce every single time. It's to encourage you to do that. Maybe if you reproduced every single time, or you had sex once and automatically there was a baby, people wouldn't have sex so much, for example. Stuff like that. Anyway, so yeah, because it's not done in the natural way, there are all sorts of things we don't fully understand about our bodies yet, and it causes mental issues and probably other physical issues. And we know it causes physical issues if you go, we know that homosexual behavior is strongly related to HIV and AIDS. It's not just me saying that. It's not just religious people saying that. It is a medical fact. And this is not me being miserable and horrible to homosexual people, because I've had gay and lesbian friends, okay? So, and I said this kind of stuff to them, and with the understanding that we are friends, we how can I say, disagree with points of view, but why do we have to only be friends with people we totally agree with? No, we disagree, and you can see my point of view, and I'm not trying to be dogmatic or just trying to win a point of view or get people to agree with my point of view and all this kind of stuff. It's simply, I believe in my spiritual values because they have benefited me, and I know from all the conversations I had with so many people and their personal issues, I know it benefits people. That's the only reason why I talk about spiritual values, and I'm talking about this particular issue. So what's the big deal in a way? Listen, what's the big deal in having this conversation? Why do people get so angry about it? Because they believe that Muslims, for example, will kill you if you're homosexual. Now, some people say, actually, that's true, that does happen. Well, those people, like I said before, there are a small minority of people who like to impose their point of view, but they're not behaving at all in line with their own religion. So, the brief message is, love for all, hatred for none. Let's understand each other. I suppose another thing that comes to my mind is, some people might say, can you be a Muslim and homosexual? Yes, it's not encouraged that you should be homosexual when you're a Muslim. The point is that Islam is all about helping people, and you might not like to hear that. Oh, I don't want to be helped out of being homosexual. Okay, there won't be any electric shocks and all this kind of stuff. At the end of the day, so what will happen? Islam creates an environment where you go back to your true nature, and it's also well known, a point that's worth making now that I'm talking about it, is that your sexual preferences are not fixed things. You can go to prison, for example, and because you're surrounded by men, it's known that there's more homosexual behavior there. And Islam talks about these things. Islam is very aware of these things. That's why Islam separates brothers and sisters and all this kind of stuff in the bedroom, and says don't look at each other's private parts too much or avoid it, these kind of things. So Islam is very aware that sexual preferences are changeable, and that's what I'm talking about. Islam basically says do this kind of stuff because it's good for you. There's no force in religion. It's all about love, and there are things you can change in your life, even the things you eat, that will change the way you look at life. I think I'll leave it at that. I suppose there could be more things that I could say. But as always, I always say please ask questions. This is me not trying to win arguments, or I've got nothing better to do. It's all about me trying to make the world a better place, make the world a happier place. And part of that is removing misunderstandings between people, removing hate and division that the media likes to create. So please ask questions, because when you ask questions I get a chance to explain things better, explain things that I've missed out, etc, etc. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a nice day. Thank you.